Good morning and welcome back to Coffee Break.
So today we're doing one of our author spotlights, and we're going to be talking about George MacDonald today.
Yeah, and we're also going to talk about more than just George, but also just classics and republishing classics in general.
Yeah.
So George MacDonald, if you haven't heard of him, was one of the Inklings.
Yeah, he was a Scottish writer who lived during the 1800s, and he was a mentor to Lewis Carroll. No big deal.
He was actually the one who pushed Lewis Carroll to submit Alice in Wonderland for publication.
Yeah. And then, he also inspired some writers you may have heard of, like C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. So, yeah.
Yeah, he actually has quite a long list of people he influenced. I'm not sure what the word for that is. If he was the influencer. Anyway, he had a lot of influence on a lot of famous writers, a lot of beloved writers.
Yeah, which is crazy because, you don't hear much about George MacDonald. I mean, I knew who he was, but I had never read anything by him before I started working here.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. And we're republishing we're publishing our own edition of The Golden Key this year. Republishing it because we already have a version, but this one's illustrated.
It's been published before elsewhere.
It has.
So George MacDonald was also a minister. He published some theological works, but what he's most famous for are his fantasy novels and his fairy tales. And I just love, I think this quote shows how much he really fits in with especially Lewis and Tolkien. He says, "I write not for children, but for the childlike, whether they be of 5 or 50 or 75. And I just think that is what you want in a fantasy children's author.
And I mean, that captures the essence of children's literature as it is, yes, it's predominantly going to appeal to children, but the best children's literature, the stuff that really lasts, I think it's because it appeals to all ages.
So I think the concept of republishing a classic is a little bit weird if you're not familiar with maybe reading a lot of republished classics. Why would we publish something that's already out there, you know?
Or the cynical view, oh, you're just publishing that because it's easy, it sells well and
Right.
everything. Yeah.
Right. But I think it's really fun to, put new packaging on it or put new illustrations in it. And it's a really great way to rediscover a classic, maybe something that you loved before, or for new generations, discover a book that they had completely missed.
Yeah. So these are all of the kind of children's literature, fantasy, George MacDonald books that we've published over the years. And they're really cool, but they're pretty old-fashioned because it's been a while since we published them.
These are a lot of his collections of fairy tales.
Yeah, exactly. But looking at, the cover for The Golden Key, this is the old one. And now we're going to come out with this one. Yeah, and this one is fully illustrated. They've got little spot art in there, but they also have some nice full-page illustrations.
Yeah, Ruth Sanderson is incredible.
Yeah, it's beautiful, just absolutely gorgeous illustrations. And, I think, The Golden Key is a pretty weird book, right? I can say that. It's weird.
Yeah.
I'm reading the initial text and I'm like, what is this?
But, are you surprised if he was friends with Lewis and Tolkien?
That's true. Lewis and Tolkien are pretty weird, too, let's be fair. But, yeah, seeing the illustrations, it really makes the story come to life for me.
And I think one of the benefits to republishing classics is Ruth Sanderson is a brilliant fantasy illustrator. But if we didn't republish, she never would have had the chance to publish with George MacDonald.
Right, exactly. So it's, taking the best of these two very different people in both time and space and being able to bring it together, that's really awesome.
Yeah, and I think it's a really brilliant fit.
Yeah, exactly. And like using Ruth Sanderson because she's so big in the fantasy community, I mean, this is getting, you know, what a lot of people think to be a Christian allegory in the hands of fantasy fans and readers.
Yeah.
You know, so it's introducing people to something that they might not have been exposed to otherwise.
Yeah, I think this is, I feel like it would almost be a pet project for her, right? She's in this world of fantasy literature, and if I'm remembering correctly, she came to us saying that she really wants to illustrate this story.
Yeah, this was like her dream project, so she's just kind of like, you know, gone all out with it, and it's lovely.
Yeah.
And I think, like, republishing classics, you know, we wouldn't be publishing these books if there wasn't still a market need for them.
Right.
Right? Like, these books have withstood the test of time, and I think there's a lot of value in, like, you know, introducing it to a new generation and repackaging it.
Yeah.
Like, I have several versions of Anne of Green Gables, right? Because
Yeah.
I like seeing all the different versions of it.
Yeah. And I think a common thread in fairy tales is their continued relevance.
Yeah, exactly.
They constantly have themes that actually do pair with the time that we're in now. So The Golden Key, as you probably figured out, is our newest one. This is still forthcoming. So this is actually the ARC. Super exciting.
Yeah, but while you're waiting for the final edition, we encourage you to rediscover George MacDonald's classics or discover his weirdness for the first time if you haven't yet.
Help us make him as famous as he should be.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why he was the one.
To be fair, like, there's no competing with, like, Lewis Carroll or something, but, you know, like, he can still be a household name. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
I think I have yogurt on my leg.
I didn't even notice that.
I have yogurt
That's
on
hilarious.
my leg.